Medicaid by starving funding to the Energy and Commerce Committee, hoping that they get some plausible deniability by saying, oh, we're not going to touch Medicaid, we're simply cutting funding to a committee. With the unspoken part being that there is no mathematical way to cut energy and commerce funding without cutting Medicaid. And that's a point that AOC drove home in a recent interview here.
What Republicans say is, oh, these big budget cuts don't actually say the word Medicaid in it, so they aren't Medicaid cuts. But if I tell you what's 10 minus 4, and you say 6, I can just tell you I didn't say 6.
Right.
But they put the 10 minus 4 into the bill.
By virtue of ascribing $880 billion in cuts to energy and commerce, and the
That's
only
right.
mathematical way for them to cut $880 billion is to focus on Medicaid.
That's right. They're saying cut $880 billion from the Energy and Commerce Committee. I sit on that committee. And Energy and Commerce, almost the entire budget that Energy and Commerce really explores is Medicaid and Medicare. There is no way that they can make their math square without enormous and devastating cuts to Medicaid.
And look, behind all of the politics and jockeying and CBO scores and numbers and analysis, let's not forget that real human beings get hurt when Medicaid gets cut. It's low-income families. It's elderly Americans in nursing homes. Medicaid pays for about 60% of all nursing home care in this country. It's people with disabilities who rely on Medicaid for home and community-based services. It's children. Over 40% of all children in the United States get their health care through Medicaid or CHIP. And that's the part that's the most insidious here. There is a very clear reason that Republicans are going after Medicaid and not explicitly going after Social Security or Medicare. It's because the folks on Medicaid are people who don't have a lot of political power. The poor, the sick, the elderly, the children. In other words, they are the easiest targets. Republicans know that they want to cut health care, but they want to do so with minimal political consequences. And so in the same way that they target gay people or trans people or minorities or any other marginalized community, they've decided that their easiest target as it relates to health care is Medicaid recipients. For a party full of self-proclaimed alphas, they sure are hellbent on only targeting people who they perceive as being the weakest opponents. And that's a point that I made during an interview on Zateo. And I think what's even more depraved about this is they went after Medicaid but not Medicare. And that's because they made a political calculation that because the folks who are recipients of Medicare, those are seniors, are a more powerful voting bloc, that they wouldn't touch that, but that because Medicaid is composed of low-income folks and children, that these are people who don't have political power. Yep. And so their goal was to strip away health care from Americans, but they only wanted to do it when they could suffer the least amount of political consequence for that. And I think that that's the most depraved part, because they decided to cherry pick where it would hurt them the least, while they were purposefully searching out for the people who would have the least political power, while they were looking to take their health care away in this country.
I also think it is an argument, though, for universal health care and Medicare for all, because when programs are universal, when they're shared, they're harder to roll back and repeal. Whereas, and I gotta be honest, the reformism of some of the Biden plans or the Kamala Harris, like if you own a Nissan Altima that's older than 94 and live in Detroit area and went to a, 3-year college and then transferred, you will get a student loan debt relief. There was just so many qualifiers to so many programs that I really think we need to think more New Deal, more FDR, more Bernie about it all.
But the most frustrating part is that Republicans don't even have the courage to be honest about what they're doing. If they truly believe cutting Medicaid is good policy, they should just make that case directly to the American people. But instead they use technical jargon and backdoor methods while promising that they're not doing exactly what they are doing. So the next time you hear a Republican say that they won't cut Medicaid, remember this CBO analysis. Remember the millions of people who would lose coverage from just one of their proposals. And worst of all, remember that they are considering these cuts while simultaneously pushing tax cuts that primarily benefit the wealthy and corporations. This isn't about fiscal responsibility, it is about priorities. And Republicans have made it clear that protecting healthcare for vulnerable Americans is simply not one of theirs. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.